Good morning, everybody. Well, we're beginning week 4, which means that we're almost halfway through the course. That'll be a relief to some of you and maybe a disappointment to some, I don't know. I know that you're all doing very well in this course. I've really enjoyed getting to know you through your writing. There are some really, really good writers and thinkers in this class, and I appreciate your work. This week, you get to relax just a little bit because the tasks that you have to perform online are not so much academic as they are exploratory and a little bit whimsical. The discussion board is a variation on the old rock, paper, scissors game. It's completely artificial, and maybe you'll think it's silly, and it is kind of silly, but that's okay because what we're doing here is trying to get you to think about the relative roles that people play in a courtroom setting or in the judicial system in a broader sense. So you'll be asked to either literally or figuratively draw names out of a hat or draw roles out of a hat and compare, say, judge to court clerk or lawyer to court reporter or whatever. And just kind of explore what those people do in the courtroom. What are their responsibilities? What are their powers? Who has, in the courtroom setting and in general in the judicial system, who has more power than someone else, or who has more, I guess influence would be the better word, within the context of the judicial system itself. Who makes it more efficient? Who makes it run? What happens in a courtroom setting? Who makes that run? Who is crucial? Who is dispensable? Dispensable, is that a word? Expendable. Expendable, that's it. You will catch on to this game very quickly and just have fun with it. This is the least serious of all of the discussion boards that we'll have this term. Your short paper this week, I hope you've already finished, or at least I hope you've done all the groundwork for it, and that is your interview with a local court employee. Now, local court employee should be taken with a grain of salt. You don't have to restrict yourself to courts that are local to you. If you know somebody who works in a courtroom, it doesn't matter where that person is, you are certainly welcome to interview him or her. And this is a very broadly defined term, local court employee. You can talk to anybody who makes regular appearances in a courtroom. Now, we wouldn't want you to interview somebody, say, a corporate attorney who has never seen the inside of a courtroom. That wouldn't work. But just interview somebody who works in a courtroom. Now, I know from experience and from having students tell me this every term that sometimes it's really, really hard to find an employee who is willing to be interviewed. I mean, some people just don't want to be interviewed. When you're trying to find somebody, please remember to remind them that they may remain anonymous if they prefer to do that. And if you have an interview subject who doesn't want his or her name revealed, that's fine. Just say, in order to identify the person, make sure that you specify the name of the court where they work and sort of their role. And even if that pinpoints somebody too much, as it might in a small town setting, for instance, be a little more vague than that, but identify, to me at least, that you have somebody. You also need to get an interview consent form. That consent form does need to be signed by the person being interviewed, but it will not be revealed publicly. Nobody will see that interview consent form except me. Let me talk just a little bit about the content of your interview, or what you should put in the written summary of the interview. If you have prepared a list of questions to ask, which I'm assuming you have, then you are certainly welcome to format your reported interview in that way. Just write your question and the person's answer. Question, answer, question, answer. It can be a transcription of the interview if you want it to be. If you would prefer to summarize what your interview subject has said, that's fine, but please give the person credit for whatever you're paraphrasing or kind of not quite quoting, so that I know that the information you've put in your summary has actually come from the interview. I have to grade you in part on whether the information you've included in your paper has actually been sourced from the interview itself. And speaking of that, you should include a reference section at the end of the summary that, even if it doesn't have anything else, because this is not a research paper, just put give credit to the date, time, place, and method of the interview. Give the name of the person being interviewed unless he or she wishes to remain anonymous. If anonymity is requested, that's perfectly fine. Just put the date, time, place, and method of the interview. And by method, I mean that if you want, or if you need to, you can conduct this interview by phone, you can conduct it by email. If you are a good texter, you could conduct it by text, or whatever method it works for you. Obviously, you can do it in person as well, but I know that is sometimes a really major inconvenience for a lot of people, for you and for the interview subject too. So phone is fine, or email is fine. Anything that works for you is acceptable. Just see what you can do. If you are truly up against a wall, if you can't find anybody who wants to be interviewed or is willing to be interviewed, please let me know that as soon as possible, and I'll see if I can work out some kind of alternative for you. That's all I really have to say this week. Keep working on your final projects in the sense of keeping them in mind. Keep that case scenario in mind. I'll discuss that with you more next week because we'll have another milestone then. But take care. Have a good week. Bye.